Hi everybody, welcome again to another program of Yeshiva Classroom, and we're here every week at this time. So in addition, I'd like to let you know that being the pandemic is here, we're not able to have our film shown on Optimum online programs because they have closed down till further notice. But you can always catch us on Yeshiva Classroom Google search. Just look under Google search Yeshiva Classroom, and there's a lot to talk about this day. So we hope you enjoy the program and benefit from some of the teachings and different comments that we're going to be making. We have April the 19th that we're doing this, the 22nd day of the Omer, right, until Shavuos, which is after the 49th, the 50th with the holiday of Shavuos. So we have pictures from the 1941 Warsaw Ghetto, and it's going to be very informative here. So first off, before we even begin, I want to show you a receipt from Gourmet Glatt, which is the kosher supermarket in the Five-Town area. And you know, just nonchalantly, I looked at the receipt, and I saw that they had charged me for spinach greens, which was $2.49, when I had only bought watercress. So in other words, the cashiers, whatever they feel that particular product, that green especially, is, they just ring it up. So you have to check your receipt, because the week before, I happened to have that one, and it had the Chobani yogurt. It rang at $1.50, which was the price of a special flip top, whatever that yogurt, whatever that type is. But I didn't have that. I didn't take that. So you have to check your cash register receipts, because they made honest errors in computing your bill. Okay, so where are we going to begin here? There's so much to talk about. You know, we just finished the subject of Saras, which seems to many people archaic and not in tune. Even as a matter of fact, I think some of the Reformed people didn't even read that chapter, those verses. But in the book of Vayikra, it talks about the Saras, a white blemish that may come onto your skin, and we are to check it out. And you go to the Kohen, who is expert in these matters, not only in the dermatology point, but in the understanding of the problem of why this particular dermatological affected the person. And basically it's on a transgression, a spiritual directive, and the person was affected with that term called Saras. Now, you know, the Sedra Masriya speaks about that particular person, and his affliction, and he goes to the Kohen, and he discusses, probably because it's always going to the Kohen, what transgressed in his life, etc. So in this particular case, it starts off with a affliction which turned out to be a mispachas, which was not sara'as, which was not an affected disease or affliction. So he was clear, he was free to go home. But it's brought down that the affliction is because of a transgression of speaking primarily of evil talk, lashon hara, speaking about a person that is probably true, but we say that he should not have done. He shouldn't be a Gothaminder or any other person that speaks unnecessarily, especially about another person, which could possibly be true. That's lashon hara. In other words, he's speaking evil about a person that is probably true, but it should not be repeated, and that is one of the reasons that we have affliction of the Torah, which is primarily to the Jewish people, but is not applied today. Now, let me give you examples of where the affliction of saras is found in the Torah. You know, when Miriam, Moses' sister, spoke evil about her brother, which is brought down in the Bible, that she was afflicted with the disease of saras, a white skin lesion throughout her the affected area, and her brother Aaron prayed to God that saras should be healed, and it was healed, and that transgression was given, was erased from her. So that's one instance. And another instance, Moses himself, when Moses was speaking with God, Moses said that the people will not believe me. In other words, God told Moses to go to the people and tell them that I will deliver you out of the land of Egypt. And what happened was that Moses says, the people won't believe me. And right after that, his hand turned white because he spoke evil about the Jewish people. And God told him to put his hand back in his bosom, and the white affliction went away. So that's two instances. And we also have in Tanakh, the other books of the Bible, right? There are 24 books of the Bible. And also in Tanakh, we have over there by Gehazi, right? The prophet was Elisha. Elisha was the prophet, and there was a general in Aram, which is the neighboring country, and not Jewish, but an enemy to Israel, and he heard of the fact that he could be cured of saras, that affliction, that skin affliction, and so therefore he went to Israel, and the word was sent to him that he has to dip himself into the Jordan River 7 times. And he laughed at that and said, well, we have better rivers, beautiful rivers in Syria. Why do I need to go to the Jordan River? But nevertheless, he said, I'll try it, and being that I'm here. And sure enough, after dipping into the Jordan rivers, his saras was healed. He was so happy. I mean, this can be found in the book of Kings too, right? They divided Kings into 2 books, right? So this is Kings chapter 7, right? Kings chapter 7, book 2, Kings chapter 7. And he was so grateful, and that is an instance where we can learn out that our words of Torah are disseminated to all people, no matter who you are, because these are the words of truth. These are divinely given words. And we see that that he was healed, and he came back to Elisha, and he says, I recognize that God is the of Hashem, the name. That's what we refer to our God. God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is the true God. And he says, I want to take some earth and build an altar there in Aram to commemorate the fact that there is a true God, and then I will pray to that God. But he said, you know, my premier, the ruler of the country, said that he prays to an idol, and Naaman, the general, asked Elisha, would it be all right, being that he has to hold on to me, and I have to bow down to his God when he prostrates himself to that idol. So that's the second story, and that is the Haftorah, or the portion, the Nevi'im, the prophetical portion of the Torah that we read. And that was prior to the April 19th, 2021, where I am speaking to you in a pre-recorded broadcast. So that was Elisha and his dealing with the general Naaman, right, from Aram, who was cured of his saras. And also, where do we find saras? Again, it's mentioned in Kings 2, chapter 5, where we have Jehoram, who was the king of Israel, right? We have 2 kingdoms, the kingdom of Israel and the kingdom of Judah. We are basically more or less descendants from the kingdom of Judah, which includes the tribe of Benjamin, Yehuda, and many others that left the 10 tribes of Israel to come to the true descendants or practitioners of the Jewish faith, because Israel, the country, the kingdom of Israel, had for one a ruler who, however, was the most powerful, and he usurped the power through force. So we don't have like a father-son, son lineage from David HaMelech like we have in Kingdom of Judah. As a matter of fact, many of the people of Judah went and brought back people from the kingdom of Israel, because they had put armed guards there to stop the people from going to the kingdom of Judah. So that's a discussion in itself. But what happened over there it said in chapter 5 in Samuel, in Kings 2, book 2, that the kingdom, specifically the kingdom of Israel, one of its cities, Shomron, was besieged. A siege was put around it, and no food or water could enter that country because they wanted Jehoram, right? He was the king of that at that time of the kingdom of Israel, right? And he was being besieged, and he wouldn't give up. And it even brings out where in his sorrow he heard the reports of cannibalism, and he ripped his clothing, a sign of mourning, and he a strong follower of the Torah, right? Yehoram. And it says over there in chapter 5 where he went out and was informed that that the siege was very great, and then it shifts to the 4 people outside the gate, and these were the people afflicted with tsaras, because one of the conditions of having tsaras is you had to be separated from the general populace, and they were excluded from the city, and they were in no man's land because Aram, their tents were nearby, and the lepers, or people with tsaras, we call them lepers. We don't know exactly what it was, what the affliction is called, but so we use the Hebrew term tsaras, affliction, a white affliction. So what happened? The leper said, "Listen, those 4 that were outside the gate said, we're going to be die of starvation, and we can't go back to the city, and so we better go to Aram. If they want to feed us, fine. If they want to kill us, there's nothing we can do." So they went to the tents of Aram, and all of a sudden, no one was there. And they went from one tent to the next tent, and all the soldiers of Aram and Sancheriv, right? Sancheriv left, and they couldn't believe their eyes, so they went back to the gates of Shomron, and they told the people, the enemy left, they're free. So the king Jehoram thought it was a trap, and Elisha had predicted that on the next day, which was this day, that the prices of food would plummet so drastically you couldn't believe it. And so Jehoram said, let's see if there is such a plague on the Egyptian, on the Aramean armies. And they sent out people, and it was sure enough, it was true. So that's a story of a tsaras, where 4 people who were afflicted had to exit themselves from the city, which is one of the prerogatives. Now, when you have a tsaras, you had to go to the kohen. You had to go to the kohen and to be inspected. But while you were visiting the kohen, he probably told you all the things of how one should conduct himself as far as speaking, the laws of lashon hara, of speaking evil, and that is how he slowly became cured, because after a while in that chapter, he brought a offering to Hashem of gratitude. This offering was it did not affect the cure, but this is an offering to show the gratitude. The same offering that the kohen, who is initiated into the priesthood, is charged with. And he brought an offering, and he put from a drop of the blood on his ear, on his right thumb, on his right big toe, on his foot, and to show that he was doing this work, to listening to God's word, to do his work, and with a toe to run quickly to do the charge that Hashem gave him, and his charge of being a kohen. And that's the same thing that the cured Tsaras does. He now is able, with the kohen's teachings, to have a new sense of piety and alacrity to do the commandments and run with full speed to perform the mitzvahs after having spoken to a teacher like the Kohen for so many times till it eventually was cured. Now look, we're going to be, I have a lot of things to talk about, and these are captured documents from the pictures from the Nazi propaganda machine of the Warsaw Ghetto. We want to go into that, and I want to talk about the holiday of Shavuos, right? And when did Shavuos fall out? It's the 6th day of the month of Sivan. 6th day in the month of Sivan, which happens to be Pesach, was the 15th day of Nisan. They have Nisan to Iyar is 30 days, and to Iyar to Sivan is a total of 50 days to the 6th of Sivan, right? So, but when we look at the holiday, what do we find? We find that at the 6th of Sivan, when the people were congregated around the mountain, Mount Sinai, the voice came out from Sinai, which is the voice of God, and telling them about the 10 commandments. All the 10 commandments. I am the first commandment. I am the Lord your God. Again, I am the Lord your God, speaking to the Jewish people in front of him. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt from the house of bondage. In other words, God involves himself in everyday happenings. And therefore, that's the first commandment. And but where do we have teachings of the Torah? It doesn't say anything about the Torah coming down, but it talks about the 10 commandments. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt. There is a God, and the second commandment is that there is only one God. Only one God. And that's the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So what happened, that's in chapter 20 in Exodus. The 10 commandments were given at that time. So what had happened was that people were full of awe and fear of this powerful voice that came from the mountain. And they were Nisaya, they were tested. This is a test, so to speak. In chapter 27 and Exodus chapter 20:17, they were exalted and in their commitment and their belief and their awe of God, and that is one of the ways and one of the times when the entire people would observe and show this awe and fear of God. And it's in the book of Deuteronomy, which is the 5th book, it says the same thing, that it's basically Deuteronomy is a recapitulation of the other 4 books, and in addition there are laws that apply that are new in the book of Deuteronomy. But if you look at chapter 5 verse 26, it says over there that would that the people have the same awe and fear of God as they had in 2017 in Exodus, of the fear and belief in the one God. So here they are, and they received the Torah, right? We've got that on 6th of Sivan, But we want to know, how did we get the Torah? I mean, it was the written Torah that was given there too. But we only have so far the 10 Commandments, which were verbally given from that mountain. And if you follow the book of Exodus, chapter 21, all the way to the following chapters, you see that there are ve'ele mishpatim. That's the Hebrew word, and these are the common laws that are given at the time to, again, 20 again. That's chapter 21. Ve'ele mishpatim. Ve is and ele, and these mishpatim laws were given. Civil laws, torts, responsibilities, liabilities. Laws of borrowing, of renting, of paying, of all kind of important dealings between man and man. And this is what Western civilization bases its laws on. So that's in 20, 21, chapter 22, and chapter 23. And in chapter 23, in addition to these mishpatim, right? These common laws that are that would make common sense. You didn't even need these laws because it would make common sense to learn these conclusions by using a little bit of logic. But they were given divinely, so they are important. But in chapter 23, it says over there that chapter 23 in Exodus, it gives some examples of the laws of the Torah, which are written Torah, which is going to be given. And I'm going to show you how it was given on the 6th of Sivan also. And these are some of the examples that are brought down, that you should keep the Shabbos, right? And I want to tell you that Judaism is a way of life. You know, it's so important that it's a way of life, that God is the giver of these laws, so that it will make us feel happy performing them and showing divine logic and directing our thoughts and actions to His directives. For example, you know, it says over there in Exodus 16:23, you should bake and cook before the Shabbos so that you will have it for the Shabbos. So that's in Exodus 16, chapter 16:23. So what's so important? That you shouldn't do any of the malacha or any of the work involved on the Shabbos. So therefore you should prepare and your victuals before Shabbos, so that you would not involve the work that is prohibited. It's called malacha in Hebrew. Any of the malacha that is prohibited, do it before Shabbos. In the holy book of the Torah, that's what it's talking about, when you should bake and when you should cook. And also it talks about what you should eat. And you know, when it comes to cattle or livestock, it's any animal that has a wholly cloven foot, right? It has to be completely split hoof, and it chew its cud. And if it only has one of those symbols, it's not kosher, and you're not allowed to eat of it. So we have the calf, the cow, and the sheep, and the goat, all animals that are grass eating. And you have the deer, D-E-E-R, which is also permitted to be eaten, because it's so hard to keep it still to slaughter it properly, we don't see too much of that venison on the market. But those are the mainstays that we should eat of the meat, right? Domesticated animals, and not the pig, which has one symbol. It has split hoofs, but it does not chew its cud. Nor the camel chews its cud, but doesn't have split hoofs. It has a pad as a foot. So those are the laws of kashrus, of how we should conduct our lives through eating and through preparing food before the Shabbos, and also the directives concerning sexual conduct, especially with one spouse, because she is only permitted to her husband during just about 2 weeks of each month, and that can be going into detail with your local rabbi, Orthodox rabbi. That's what they call them, Orthodox rabbis. I don't know if they're doing such a great job, but I mean the other rabbis, they call themselves rabbis. There's a lot lacking, and you don't go after someone with a personality, but you go after someone that's knowledgeable in the laws of Torah. So where do we get? So what happened? So again, the Jews heard the Torah being given on the Ten Commandments on the 6th of Sivan. They got more laws at Sinai, because there's Eilen Mishpatim, then these, meaning the same laws, the same place at Sinai. They were given instructions regarding Mishpatim, or civil laws, torts, responsibilities, liabilities, and money matters. So that we have sexual matters are conducted according to the law. Then we have the preparation of victuals, food before the Shabbos. No Shabbos should transpire without following the laws of that holy day, commemorating the creation of the world. So it doesn't say, I am the Lord your God who created heaven and earth, but it says, I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt. Wouldn't it be better to say, I am the Lord your God who created heaven and earth? But there were no witnesses then. There were no witnesses to the creation of the heavens. And therefore, it's not brought down. Adam wasn't created to the 6th day, when the world was already created. No one saw the creation of the world. But yeah, so that's the first. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt. The people saw, they believed, and they passed it on to the children till today. And we hope God has mercy on us and sees that we're trying so very hard to keep His commandments and live the life of the covenant that we made, that our forefathers made all the way back to Abraham, right? The covenant between the pieces, right? So, I want to go tangential, but the point is, I want to bring up this very important fact about the age of the earth. The Cave of Horrors recently, again, I'm doing this program on a Monday morning, April 19th, 2021, and a few weeks ago, a news item came over that they had discovered the Cave of Horrors in southern Israel, right? It's called the Cave of Horrors, and what was there, they found many skeletons of humans that perished, and it's believed that they were from the Bar Kokhba revolution in 70 Common Era, right? So they explored further in the cave, and they saw a deceased, or probably a person who was ill and died, and in this person's hand was a bag of coins, and they were dated 70 Common Era, the year of Bar Kokhba's revolution, when he set up a government. Or he set up a government. It didn't last because the Romans destroyed it. But what's so significant in it is that they had, the news item said that they found a basket nearby which was made out of grasses, and they carbon dated it to 10,000 years before the Bronze Age. The professor said that this is 10,000 years old. And in other words, they had this, Bar Kokhba's revolutions was 2,000 years ago, and they had in their possession a basket that was 8,000 years previous to that. Could you believe it? Oh, it's you know, you have to look at the laws of geology. I go over this many times where for instance, you find fossils where embedded in rocks. So they say, well, look, this fossil was embedded in this rock, and we arbitrarily said this rock is X million years of age, so the fossil is X million years of age. That's all, just simple arbitrary, and everybody believes it, gullible, it says, and the professor said it, so it must be true. So there's a lot to go on, and to not accept the fact that this planet is X million years of age, because if these fossils were that old, they should have deteriorated. I mean, they should have deteriorated. Why do we find complete skeletons of dinosaurs? Because they were encased in Exodus chapter 7:14. They were encased in lava, because you look on an ocean floor and you'll see extinct volcanoes, and they spewed lava and all kind of things, and encapsulized these dinosaurs and these ancient animals which were destroyed in the time of the flood. Look, I don't want to get too tangential on that subject, because we're back in the Ten Commandments and 6th of Sivan, and that was in chapter 20, and all they heard was the Ten Commandments. But 21, 22, 23 were all examples of different laws that were brought down, that were going to be given to Moses. Now, if you look on chapter 24, God tells Moses to, this is all Eile Mishpatim, these are all on the 6th of Sivan. He says over there, he says, read the teachings to the people, from the creation of the world to the giving of the Ten Commandments. And Moshe read them to the people. And then God said, write it in a book. And it's called Sefer HaBris, the Book of the Covenant. Look in chapter 24. Now, this was eventually incorporated into the Torah, but look in chapter 24. And over there it says that Moses wrote it in a book and read it to the people. And the people in unison cried out, Naaseh v'nishma, we will do and we will learn. Naaseh v'nishma. Then God said in chapter 24:7 or 24:12, tells Moshe, ascend to the mountain, and I will give you the stone tablets with the engravings of the Ten Commandments, the written Torah. Here we have the written Torah, the commandments, which are the Talmud, which we learn out of, and its teachings. So you should teach them. So you should teach them. And that's what we have, that we're being taught today. All about those books, those teachings that were given on the 6th of Sivan. Right? So that's what happened over there. Now, on that same day, towards evening, he went up to Mount Sinai and to receive all that God had promised. And he stayed there 40 days and 40 nights, and he told the people, I'll be back in 40 days and 40 nights. And he left, he went up. And they said, well, how could he exist without anything on a mountain for 40 days? So they counted the days, and they counted the 6th of Sivan as one day. The first day. But they failed to realize you don't count part day as a whole day, and as a result, they came out to the 40 days came out to the 16th of Tammuz, right? After Sivan comes Tammuz, the month of Tammuz. 40 days comes out the 16th day of Tammuz. So he said, well, Moshe didn't come back. There's no way he could have survived on that mountain without food and water. And so the Erev Rav, right? They were the people that didn't have a position in the camp. They were on the outside. These were Gentiles who saw all the miracles in Egypt and accompanied the Jews. So where are we? So they started to worshiping and serving other idols. So Moshe came down on the 17th day of Tammuz, and he saw the people dancing and changing the laws of prayers, what have you, like the Reform and Conservative, and throughout the generations they want to change the makeup of the wheel. You know, these are the fifth columnists among us, the ignoramuses. So here we have that the 17th day of Tammuz, he came down and he broke the tablets. The 17th day of Tammuz, he broke the tablets, and he stayed there for a few days, and he went up again. He went 3 days, 3 times he went up. So I'm going to go tangential. The first time he came down on the 17th of Tammuz, right? And he stayed a few days, and he went up the month of right after Tammuz comes of, and he stayed there the whole month of until Elul, right? Until the 40 days would be in Elul, and because in those 40 days he prayed the months of Tammuz, a little bit of Tammuz and for 40 days up the mountain. And he came down again and went up at the month of El, right? Stayed there the month of Elul, because the second time was from the 17th of Tammuz to the end of, which is 40 days. And then Moshe went up on the 1st of Elul, month of Elul, and stayed there 40 days until the 10th of Tishrei. 30 days in Elul and 10 days in Tishrei, which is the 10th of Tishrei, which is the Yom Kippur. And that's when God finally forgave the basic transgression. And that's why the Yom Kippur, 10th of Tishrei on the calendar, we observe, because that's the time when our forefathers were completely exonerated, and we received the hopefully to be exonerated from the transgression that we committed on the 10th of Tishrei. So that's what happened, and he broke the tablets, and we're back in that's in chapter 24. You look for reconciliation, and so right away we go into chapter 25 in Exodus, and it says, "Build for me a mishkan, a dwelling place. Make for me a dwelling place that I might dwell amongst you." So the people heard and heard all of these words of how to build an ark and the different appurtenances, the furnitures that went into it, and the different dimensions. And so that's what happened. Look, I'm going to get. I want to get this Warsaw ghetto picture up, and that's what happened on the 10th of Tishrei, Yom Kippur, right? So we want to go back to the chapter where he went up, and we came down on again on 10th of Tishrei, the month of Tishrei, and God said, "Make for me a tabernacle." In chapter 25, that I may dwell amongst you, and it was in the center location of where the encampments that the Jewish people encamped during the 40 years of travel. So all the details are given to Moses, all the dimensions and the appointees of Bezalel and Achisamach ben Achimalach, his assistant, and finally he gave him the charge, build it. In other words, first he spoke to Moses. That's why it's such a long piece of Torah, because first he commanded it to Moses, and then Moses had commanded it to the people. Build it. So, and then inaugurate it, which was on Pesach, the first day of Pesach, and Nisan, the first day in Nisan, where the Kohanim took charge. But, you know, we you know, they were given another covenant in chapter 29 in Deuteronomy 29 verse 8. All the people were assembled, from the common laborer to the professional, and you heard the words of the Torah. And I will make a covenant, 29:8, I will make a covenant to those that pass through, and with its imprecations, the curses that will befall the Jewish people, and we know they have befallen us if we went astray. But we just beg God that He should look at those people that are that are with us, that are strong, and live the life of the covenant that we agreed to follow. You have in Leviticus 26, God tells Moses all the imprecations and curses that will fall you in various degrees of severity. 7 curses are brought down in 5 degrees of severity. But then in 28, Deuteronomy, there's 98 curses which go into detail. Of what it'll be like if you go astray. And this leads us to the Warsaw Ghetto. These are pictures that were taken by Nazi photographers of the Warsaw Ghetto inhabitants, how they were forced to work and given very little food. As a matter of fact, they figured out there were 26,000 apartments in the Warsaw Ghetto. And with the number of people, it averaged to about 6 or 7 people per room. 7 people in a room. And they kept on dumping Jews from the surrounding area. Still, they kept those few always remembered that it was from God and we have transgressed. And here we have some of the pictures of people under harsh conditions still believing, which it was not necessary to save your life. Here's a streetcar. They had patrols going out where if a Jew was caught, he was shot. Here, there's no food. Look, a father and a child. No food. And we have, look at the masses of humanity trying to eke out a living, smuggling potatoes if they could. 1941, look, how many of these kids have made it? No shoes on in Warsaw Ghetto. And here, daily taking away the people dying of starvation and disease. And here's our captors. Here the German captors that either had to walk over the road, couldn't touch the Aryan. They had a guard you couldn't jump over because here they had a soldier there ready to keep the Jews out. And that's how it was. That's how we live. And today, do you remember that? Look, we have yeshivas here today, and I'm talking about the 5 towns. And what do they have? They have the spare time practicing basketball. Before they have to practice, and then they go. Every night during basketball season, then they have to go to travel to away games or home games, and then it takes up so much of their time. Then you have hockey, indoor hockey. You have to practice and take a trip. Time should be spent working on your Talmud. I asked the Rabbi, how come you have all these sports teams? He said the children, the boys want it. The boys want it, but they're here to work hard and to get private instruction. You know, but they're all local teams they play. Local teams, they got to get dressed in a uniform. Look, you're a holy people. We have responsibilities, and the synagogues. There are several synagogues that are not. I'm talking about orthodoxies, right? Orthodox. that there is talking, and people don't realize the importance of staying focused. And there should be a let me see where these. Hold on one second. Don't go away. I'm just trying to get. There should be a Beis HaMedrash open all the time, where a study hall is set up. No speakers. Everything's in English today. You don't need speakers. You can have a mashgiach. Someone can supervise you if you have a question. But you bring your own books, or come to our set aside section where we can give you some books to read. You know, Behold the People by Rabbi Millers. It gives you the whole insight to the 24 books of the Bible. It's a must for everybody. Behold the People by Rabbi A. Miller. You can get it on Amazon. Very important. So it's important that we have that the synagogues are open 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, to accommodate people who want to learn and to help them learn. Not to have a basketball court. Did you ever hear something like that? You have a synagogue where half of the building is a basketball court, right? And I mean, you go to a hardware store, you're not going to find milk and cheese and eggs and bread. Yeah, you have to find spiritual. You're going to put temptation in front of a person and say, "Oh, I'll go in and shoot a few shots," and then you pick up team before you know you left the books. What kind of business is that? We say, "Well, you're not in charge. I'm just a dues-paying member." Look, they had in Exodus chapter 32. Exodus chapter 32. It says over there that those that were guilty of worshiping idols were tried and executed. There were 3,000 people that were executed for worshiping idols. After Moshe came down with the Torah on the 6th of Sivan. They went up, but he came down on the 17th of Tammuz. So, yeah. So where are we now? So what happened? 3,000 were killed, and then he said, well, the last pasuk in that chapter 32, verse 35, says, then God sent a plague out. We said, well, what kind of plague? You know, all this COVID-19, it's all a plague. It's a forewarning. We have to, you see adversity, check your ways. So what happened? Why do you have a plague? I mean, you tried, you executed the people. Chapter Exodus 32, 35. Sent out a plague. Well, you just destroyed and convicted all of the transgressors. It's for those that stand on the fence and didn't do anything. Right? I pay my bills, but what am I? I'm a little guy. I can't. What can I do? Don't pay your dues if you believe in it. Do something. Oh, we have to build. We have to build down the highway. Look, you got the whole history of building. Peninsula Boulevard will be should be changed to Synagogue Boulevard. Every 2 blocks there's another synagogue right on the corner, big. And in a few years they're going to call it Church Synagogue, Church Boulevard, because all the churches will be there. Because that's the history of the Jews. They build good, expensive money, and instead of building people, they're building buildings, and then they run away. Because they're afraid of the Goyim are going to come. low-class ghetto mentality. And here they, look, I have pictures of all the churches that took over synagogues in Brooklyn, for instance. The history repeats itself. It can't happen over here. Oh, are you kidding? Look at the five towns. Look, it's bordering it. 5 towns, Redfern, housing, the Inwood, all is dumped into, low income is dumped into the borders of the Orthodox neighborhood. And they're going to build. Oh, it'll be here for a long time. Only Chabad didn't leave Crown Heights. They're the ones that stuck it out. Over there around them are all churches, formerly synagogues. Okay. You have to do something. You have to set up a base of medrash. You have to come. Here. This Talmud over here. Everybody can learn the Talmud and get the beauty of it. You got it in English over here. You have it in English. You don't need any teacher. The rabbi is a teacher. If he's going to be speaking, what do you get out of it? You have to do the work. You have to work and get the enjoyment out of it. Okay, I think I said enough for tonight. I think my time is running out. And remember what the famous sage Hillel said? That if I am only for myself, what am I? And the time is now to act. If not now, when? With that, I'm going to end and wish you all a happy Shavuos, which will be coming. This has been dictated on April 19th, 2021, the 22nd day of the Omer. With that, good night and good